Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law-Splaining the Interwebs. I'm your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And with me today is my very good friend and one of my favorite guests, Mr. Ty Beard. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing great. And yourself?
Oh, I'm peachy and terrific.
All right.
Actually, that's not always the case. Yesterday, I was barely able to do the show. I had old man-itis.
It's better than old man ass, which I've heard is a thing.
I have that too. Don't worry.
Yeah.
No, so I was driving with the family, and all of a sudden, something in my middle back, just driving around peacefully, just tweaks.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm having trouble breathing.
Yeah.
I'm in obnoxious levels of pain, and I tried to like stretch it out all day. Tried to pop it. I had, I had Lady Raggets give me like a back massage with some like, infused crap to try and make it feel better. And by the end of the day, like I was able to do the show, but I looked like I was dying. I was like,
probably felt like it too.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know if I'm like just hurt or if I have AIDS or what.
You're getting old.
Yeah.
You're getting old. And it's going to get better. I mean worse.
Yeah.
There's nothing for me more debilitating than when my back decides not to cooperate. In fact, I was telling you before, I bought a new vehicle. What
did you get?
Well, I got a 4-wheel drive Bronco. Just Ford Bronco.
Ford just stopped them, I think.
I wouldn't be surprised. They're way too fun. We can't have that. But I'm going to get a winch and all the lights. I got to trick it out. But I got tired of driving a gigantic vehicle because the parking garage at my office was built right before big trucks were a thing, and it's nerve-wracking to try to park a big truck in that thing.
Oh, I imagine. Yeah.
So, but I got the 4-door, but in the process, I was at the BMW place at one point during my odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy, I drove one of their cars. And I was like, I don't know about this. And I walked by this red car, and he goes, "Hey, I want to show you something." And get down. And it's one of their 7 Series sedans, and get down that thing. He says, "Crank it up." Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
I went, oh my gosh. They had some super rich dude order this thing custom. It had the like 680 horsepower.
Nice.
You want to test drive it? I said, hell yeah. And so
yes, I do. Thank you. I was going to ask.
Got it out on the road, man, and punched it, and it's like, oh. So we get back, and I got out of it, and my back went, "I'm going to punish you just for riding around the block in this thing. What do you think I'm going to do to you if you actually were to buy it?"
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh crap. So I walk in, and he's like, "What do you think about it?" And I was like, "Oh, it's cool." I said, "Listen, man, I got to tell you, I've been driving trucks for 25, 30 years. I don't really want a car, He said, "Well, we can give you a good deal." I said, "Well, I'm curious what constitutes a good deal." "Well, instead of 140,000, we'll charge you 130." I said,
Thanks.
"Yeah, I had read the sticker. I knew the price." And he said, "So let me just print it out for you." And so I've got the 2 devils on each shoulder.
One saying get it, the other one saying get it twice.
Your back is going to hurt. Your back is going to hurt. You're going to be miserable. You're going to hate this thing. It's going to be miserable, and it's ostentatious. And the devil's going, "You homo, get this thing."
Shut up, Dylan Mulvaney.
Yeah. And so I was sitting there, and I texted my wife and said, "I don't know if I want a car." And she's like, "Well, it's your decision, whatever." So he comes back and with the sheet, and I thought about it. I said, "Listen, man, I got to have a truck. I can't. I'm just not car material." And wonderful salesman. He goes, we have a Land Rover over in the used car lot."
Overcome the objection. I
said, "My friend, you are a true professional, and I will do business with you." Well, we bought my wife a car from him, so he did okay, but the poor, he really thought he had me hooked, and you know, if it wasn't for my back, I think, you know.
You probably
So,
would.
but I've got the sheet as a souvenir. I thought about framing it.
Oh man.
I think that would be like twice or three times as much as I've ever paid for anything. You know.
Yeah.
Else.
Well, I was telling you before the stream because I hadn't told you yet. I got a Mustang GT 500, a Shelby, and it's so much fun to drive. And I showed you these, but I don't remember if I showed the chat. I got my custom plates finally. I ordered them back when I bought the car in December. But apparently to get custom plates, and they didn't tell me this at the dealership, there's a little tiny box on the form, and you have to make 3 choices for what your plates might be. I guess in case one's taken,
that makes sense.
Or if they don't approve it. But there's a box, and it's like this big, and you have to write your reasoning for your custom plates names.
Because I want it.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, well, all of these are like nicknames that I have. I'm an entertainer, I guess, and I have a show, and these are all nicknames from my show. But I got my first choice, which was this. I got to go slap these bad boys on, this bad boy on the back of it tomorrow, and it's awesome. So
that's epic.
I always thought that they were really like expensive to get custom plates. It's like $100. I mean, it's one-time fee, but I thought it was like a recurring expensive thing. But no, they're pretty inexpensive. So
if I got a vanity plate, I wonder what to put on there.
I have Beardicus. I have no idea.
Yeah, I've never thought of that.
But yeah, I had Law Pope, I had Law Nose, and I had what was the other one? I don't remember, because you can get up to 7 letters. That's all you got. So I knew I couldn't do Nose Pope. But oh wait, I think the third one was the third one was SPRCHT. So Super Chat was the third one. But I got the first one, which I'm really glad. That's the one I wanted. And it's fantastic.
Oh, I know. BR549 for anybody out there that ever watched Hee Haw.
BR549.
Yeah, that's the phone number of the use of Junior Samples used car lot.
Okay.
Yeah, long time ago.
There you go.
I mean, Hee Haw was old when I was a child, so
yeah, that's an ancient show.
Yeah,
that's an ancient. Yeah. All right. Well, tonight, guys, banter aside, we are going to get into some topics that are interesting, that matter, they
sort of matter. Okay, they matter.
They matter a little bit. No, some of these are good topics. Some of them reflect some goofy shit that's going on in culture right now. There's like a war. Like there's an actual culture war. I know that's like a gay expression. It's not as gay as my shirt is.
It's not a Cold War anymore either.
Right.
Because our side is finally fighting back, which, you know, gosh, what a crazy idea that is.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. So we've got there is this weird culture war going on. It's not like a civil war. It's nothing like that. It's just there is now a dedicated group of people trying to push various agenda items into every possible space, which is like, it seemed like that in entertainment for a while, but now it's everywhere. And then there's a group of people similarly hell-bent on fighting that in any possible capacity. And it produces this eternal conflict, manifests on Twitter and social media primarily, but it really is driving wedges in our daily relationships. And it's kind of weird. But one of the things we're going to talk about that's like the new topic, and our shirts are thematic for this.
Although mine isn't quite as
it's not
memorable as yours.
Well, see,
like
yours
that bright orange.
Yours is Budweiser and mine is Bud Light. Okay. Right? Like that's what we've got. We've got this weird Bud Light
weird symmetry
campaign where they decided to put a bunch of trans propaganda on top of or on the cans of Bud Light for some fucking weird reason. Like, why would you market a product in this way?
Do you want to summarize the rest before we get in, or can we just launch into that one?
Here's what I want to do.
Okay.
I really want you to stew for the first hour and not talk about that.
Oh yeah.
Because I want to go
to Rumble.
I want to go to Rumble to talk about the Bud Light stuff so we can speak freely and openly about the topic without any, like, I don't think we're going to say anything that goes against any terms of service, but I don't want some idiot to misinterpret something that is said and have it be a big thing. I would just prefer to be able to, I don't want you to have to like moderate anything. I don't want to moderate any language. I want to talk openly about the subject. And YouTube has been more sensitive on trans stuff than a freshly transed trans.
Harsh but fair.
I think that's still safe to say.
Now, you did hear that Budweiser's replacing the Clydesdales with cows that are pretending to be horses, right?
Wait, what?
Babylon Bee had an article. Said Budweiser's replacing their Clydesdales with cows that are pretending to be horses.
Oh God. Fantastic. I love those guys. I need to get out.
They are awesome.
Go do a podcast with them.
You know, if some Republican mega donor is listening, for God's sakes, don't give any more money to some GOP white paper project. Give money to people like them.
Yeah.
You know, give money to people like what's his name, formerly of Project Veritas,
James O'Keefe.
O'Keefe, yeah. You know, give money to the people that are out there actually accomplishing things. Because I mean, they are just wickedly fun. They were wickedly funny when they were just making fun of religion, you know.
Yeah.
And what I like, they make fun of religion in a way that religious people like myself just kind of go, "Oh yeah, that's us," you know. Anyway.
Yeah. No, it's they need to do that. I need to support James O'Keefe specifically. And I'll tell you about something later, but yeah, I need to do that. And I've got to he and I are eventually going to do an interview together. Cool. I just got to hook up with his people and get that scheduled. But I've talked to him a couple times now via messaging, and he's such an interesting guy. And I think he's really one of the most important voices in the entire world. It's crazy.
And came out with a bang by taking Acorn down.
Exactly.
You know, and he also innovated an interesting tactic. He nailed them with multiple videos and released one. And when they said, "Well, that's an unusual thing. That you know, that's taken out of context," then he releases another. And then they huff some more, and then he releases a third. I mean, you know, very, very well conceived plan.
He nailed them. And then he did it again and again and again and again and again. And then of course they finally wriggled someone into his organization to shut him out. And they thought that Project Veritas was going to matter without James O'Keefe. And they're quickly learning that Project Veritas was James O'Keefe. And Project Veritas's transition to its pronouns being was and were. I mean, it's gone, and it can just fucking go for all anybody cares. I mean, what's the point of having them if you've sacrificed your integrity at the altar of Pfizer? Fuck off. No one wants you anymore.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
So there's that. But we have to talk about something, Ty.
Uh-oh.
Are you having any alcoholic beverages tonight?
No.
Okay, so no trusty Jack Daniels tonight.
We'll talk about that.
Is there a reason?
Yes, there is.
Is this the reason, Ty? Is this the reason that there's no Jack Daniels tonight?
Yep. Jack Daniels accomplished what you in the 4 years we've been good friends have failed to accomplish. I am done with them. Now, you and your chat can chortle and leave me to drinking the likes of Old Charter or Wild Turkey, or you can make me a recommendation of an inexpensive but good bourbon, and I'll probably take it. But yeah, I'm done with Jack Daniels.
You want a great one? This is
Sure.
this is a great bourbon, and I just checked. I thought this was more expensive, but we'll get to that topic with the Bud Light stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's Penelope Bourbon. It's
Penelope
from Kentucky.
Bourbon. Okay.
It's $55 a bottle, which is more expensive than Jack, but it's not a bank breaker.
True.
And
True.
it's also 112 proof. So
Oof.
you get but it's smooth, it's delicious. It's not like crazy complex or anything where you're like where you can only drink a little bit because it gets tiring. It's just a really, really solid bottle. You don't have to do full pours of it to get, you know, the reason I bring up that it's higher proof is because that if you're wise about how you drink, that can actually, it explains the cost difference. But
in regular, I think Jack Daniel's like 80 proof. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. Your typical, like the staple whiskeys are going to be, those are going to be 80 proof.
Okay.
This is a good old Kentucky bourbon.
It's called Penelope.
Penelope. Yeah. Like what's his face's wife? Odysseus's wife, right? Penelope.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
But no, I'm going to have some. It's a fantastic bourbon. And like, I thought, cause I bought the bottle, weeks ago and I
tranny fluid.
I hadn't.
Sorry, somebody on Rumble's chat referred to Jack Daniels.
I didn't think about how much it was because I bought like 4 different bottles of things at one time. But I was in the store today and I was like, this is only $55. This is great. And I had never had it. So my store is able to get it. Hopefully yours is. I would try it. Strong recommendation.
Well, like I said, you can leave me to Old Charter if you want to, but I am willing to consider moving to something different.
No, you got to get yourself something good.
Old Charter used to be aged for 8 years, and then they got busted, and so now it's aged for 8 seasons. And I'm pretty sure that's fall, spring, winter, summer, and winter.
Oh my God. Well, let me hit these chats real quick, and then we'll get into the topics, and then we'll get moving. BD Tejas says, "How many times will you and Ty lose the case during this stream?" Always at least one more.
At least once.
Ducky Tats and Art says, "Hey Rackets, just wanted to say what's up, man. Hope you are well. Hey, you too, brother. We gotta do that thing we were talking about. I definitely wanna move forward with that. I think it'd be awesome." Vexner 3 says, "Remember when Ty thought he joined you during a live debate?" Lol. Anyway, what's your opinion on Matt?
It had been a long day. I had been up all night the night before.
What's your opinion on Matt Walsh's takes? New direction for Republican Party going forward, taking root. Look, I'm not the biggest fan of Matt Walsh personally. I sometimes find myself agreeing with him. Other times I'm not agreeing with him. I'm just ultimately not the biggest Matt Walsh fan. So I don't tend to listen to his takes unless they get foisted upon me by some algorithm. And I don't think I've ever watched his YouTube show unless it was, I think I watched a clip of it with the whatchamacallit stuff, the Steven Crowder stuff. Just some clip of him bitching about it. But I don't know what his takes are, so I couldn't answer that. Just in general, though, I'm not the biggest fan. I mean, he's red meat conservatism a lot of times, and that's fine, but I don't find him particularly insightful. Someone was asking what batch. This one is batch 14. Sorry, I just saw that message in the chat. Batch 14. Yeah, not a huge Matt Walsh fan. Couldn't tell you. El Rojo Grande, any thoughts about the Philip S. Formas case where the DOJ is attempting to retry someone who Trump commuted his sentence? Judge gave him max explicitly to punish him for the ones the jury hung on, and now retrying him on them. Okay, so the jury hung on some. So Trump commuted his sentence, and the jury was hung on some of the charges. Now they're retrying him on those charges.
Jury charges.
I mean, that's technically legal.
Yeah.
That's one of the problems with commuting a sentence versus pardoning.
Right. He ideally should have pardoned him.
Yeah.
Well, again, we have a two-tiered justice system. It's now, you and I have known that for some time. It's now absolutely obvious.
Yeah, that I was talking about it the other day.
Yeah.
What's actually it's mostly one tier, and the tier is, as I said on Crowder, the DA is just trying to fist you into oblivion. That's the tier that most people end up with.
Well, but, these idiot prosecutors are doing one service. They're making it clear to the American people just how much power we vest in prosecutors. And so maybe something good will come out of this. We'll either start reining them in, although I'm not real sure how to do that exactly. Except I would just make them. I would get rid of the whole qualified immunity doctrine. And, that way, if they misbehave, you can go after them personally, in court.
Right.
But, that system has worked okay for us for 200 years, but now Soros and his bunch have completely compromised it. So we're going to have to do something.
We'll have to figure something out. But no, I've never heard of the Philip Esformas case. I'll have to look into that one.
That, like I said, that's the downside of commuting the sentence. And I guess there's no statute of limitations or no, probably didn't apply anyway if there was.
Well, I think because he was already charged and tried within the statute. I don't think the statute, if you have a hung jury, I don't think that you have a statute of limitations violation, or I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah. And they may have gotten him within whatever applicable period there was anyway.
And it may have told the statute during his case as well. I think that's probably what they do. Yeah. I was having to explain to someone how the tolling of the statute worked in Trump's case today, because the language of the tolling is pretty vague, but the commentary on it is pretty explicit, that each full day that he was out of the state of New York tolls the statute for that day. So every day he's out of New York, and Trump's pretty well documented as to when he's in and out of the state, tolls the statute. And I think he's probably still within it, because he spent 4 years as president, with most of his time either in Washington or in Florida or somewhere else. A couple days in New York, sure, but most of the time he was not there. And then since being out of the presidency, he spent most of his time apparently in Florida at Mar-a-Lago. So the statute has not been running on him for most of the time since the alleged crimes.
I was going to say that since the made up crime.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the
made up crime that we don't actually know what it is, because
we'll tell you eventually.
That DA definitely rode the short bus to high school.
Alvin Bragg ate the short bus.
Yeah, and then ate it. Yeah.
Lynn Cruz says Jameson Irish whiskey. Once you go Irish, you'll never go back. Jameson's not bad. I like Jameson Black, which is better, because once you go Irish Black, you don't go back. But I like Jameson Black better. But I'll get Jameson a lot of times when I'm at, the type of bar you go to really determines what you're going to drink. Because if you go to a nice bar with a whiskey enthusiast bartender who's got a bunch of good selections, you can drink really well. Or if you go to if you go to a club bar, or a bar inside a place, or a regular restaurant bar, all they have are 4 garbage whiskeys, and Jameson is the least trash of them. So I'll drink that a lot. Unless they have Bullet or Knob Creek. Samuel Williams, the founding
a bourbon, or just
it's an Irish whiskey.
Irish whiskey, okay.
Irish whiskeys have a pretty distinct flavor to them, but it's good. And it's Jack. It's a staple whiskey. It's really inexpensive, easy to get. But I like Jameson Black better than Jameson, but Jameson's decent. Samuel Williams, the founding father, says, "Did you hear about the Down syndrome gang member in Chicago is going on trial for 2 murders?" Someone brought it up on Sean's show. No, I did not hear about the Down syndrome gang member from Chicago who's going on trial for murder.
How does that happen?
I don't know.
It's Chicago, so
I was waiting for the punchline.
Yeah, well, the minute I hear Chicago, it's might not be a punchline.
The other good whiskey recommendation I have that I tried at Matsuri, which Ryan, the editor, is trying to get me to tell you about, is really good. And it's usually about $40 a bottle. It's Rebecca Creek.
Rebecca Creek. I'll write that down as well.
So it's, that's a good one. That's a good one. Okay. Let's talk about, so the first thing I wanted to talk about is this is up in my state, but it's not like you won't be able to comment on this one or anything. So this is, there's a federal judge overturns Minnesota's age restrictions on gun carry permits. So there was, to get a carry permit in Minnesota, you had to be 21 years old.
The audio is listenable.
They're going to need a lot.
Wait, what audio is listenable?
You can hear the audio.
On this thing?
Yeah.
Weird. I didn't.
Well, at least I could. I mean, I don't know if the chat could, but
I couldn't hear it. That's weird as hell.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, I killed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Normally, if that's on, I would be able to hear it. I don't know why I couldn't, but you guys could. That's even weirder than normal. Okay, so anyway, yes, you had to be 21 plus to get a concealed carry permit, and some organizations sued on behalf of 18 to 20-year-olds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And said, hey, this is age discrimination. It's a violation of the Second Amendment. So we should remove that.
It is.
It 100% is.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, I would politely argue that the 18-year age requirement is similarly a violation of your Second Amendment.
Yeah, I think that would be within. I don't think the founders wanted children to necessarily have firearms.
Absolutely did, Ty.
Well,
the children, the what we could go back to, at least if we trust Scalia on his analysis in Heller, we can say that the militia itself went down to age 15.
Well, that's true too. I'm not sure. I'm not sure actually it matters, because it seems like 15-year-olds in the inner cities don't have a hard time getting guns anyway. So
you won't step on their rights, Ty.
Well, and although there's all that enthusiasm for taking guns away, they don't seem to actually be able to put these, bastards in jail forever like they should.
Right.
So how's that being received in Minnesota? That rule?
The crazy thing about Minnesota, and I don't understand how this works, as absolutely Democrat as this state is, the majority of people outside of the Twin Cities are fully embraced gun culture. Even the Democrats tend to be the outstate Democrats basically have to be pro-gun. There's so much hunting that goes on in this state. Okay. Hunting culture is huge. Yeah. And the state is largely conservative. And I was talking to someone about this today. You literally just have the Twin Cities and Duluth that are blue, and almost everything else, the entire map other than that, is red. And like down where I am, we're like a +3 Republican county, but we've had a Democrat congressman forever, or we did until the past like 2 sessions of the House. We had a Democrat congressman, but he'd been there for 30 years. He was pro-life, pro-farm, and pro-gun. So, I mean, like, he's that type of Democrat is dying off.
Yeah. Not many of those left.
No.
Well, that's the thing. Anything. Look, if you're gonna let somebody vote, you ought to give them every other right, because there's no power more important than voting. So the idea.
I disagree.
We'll let you wield political power and the force of the government, but we're not going to let you drink, or we're not going to let you have a gun. That's right. That's asinine.
See, I think it's the opposite way around, or I think it should be. Because personally, I think the right to speech and the right to guns are the two, and the right to property are the 3 most critical rights. And then I think the right to vote is actually less sacred if we go by what's in the Constitution.
Yeah, well, I don't think I necessarily meant right, more power. I mean, sure. When you're voting, you're exercising power in a way that you're not exercising when you buy a gun. The idea that you could be competent to vote but not competent to own a firearm is ridiculous. Now, if everybody thinks, well, people aren't mature enough at 18. Fine, raise the voting age to 21 then.
Well, we can't anymore because we have a constitutional amendment that lowered it from 21 to 18.
Right. Yeah, that would be awkward. Well, you'd have to have another constitutional amendment. But
right,
I mean,
you'd have to remove it. But it originally was 21 for a very long time. Actually, the 18 vote was in the 40s or 50s.
Yeah, I think World War II probably was a big factor there. I mean, when you got 17-year-olds in some cases enlisting. Kind of hard to say go fight for your country, but you can't vote.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I wouldn't have minded a system like Starship Troopers where, you have to serve, and after your service is over,
guarantees citizenship.
Citizenship, yes. Yeah.
Although that implies that there was some other ways to get citizenship than just service.
Not in the novel. Now, Heinlein tried to backpedal on that a little bit by claiming later on that service was much broader than just military service. But in the novel, it was pretty clear it was military related. Because what happened was in his future history, there was a big war, democracy collapses, anarchy everywhere, and veterans just from the big war, veterans came back and basically took power. After, for law and order. And the logic was actually quite interesting. You didn't get to vote until you put your life on the line for your country. And now in that novel, they had free speech, they had all the rights that we enjoy.
Holy crap! The voting age going from 21 to 18 was actually 1971.
Yeah,
much later
I thought that was more of a Vietnam thing. But
yeah, it turns out it was.
Yeah, that makes more sense. But anyway, yeah, so service guarantees citizenship.
Well, see, that line implies that there's some other way to get citizenship, but service would guarantee it.
Oh, service guarantees it. Yeah, the use of the word guarantee. I don't think that Verhoeven really thought that through quite as well.
I love Paul Verhoeven.
Well,
every movie he makes is great. He did Basic Instinct.
Yeah. All men of a certain age remember Basic Instinct quite clearly.
I know. So this is sidetracking, but that's okay because you're my friend.
That's what we do.
So I watched Basic Instinct on a Twitch watch party the other day because it was on Amazon Prime, and I was like, I don't think people realize how good of a movie Basic Instinct actually is, because it's all overshadowed by Sharon Stone's vagina being shown on stream for like one grainy second.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like it's virtually.
It's this super hyped up scene, but that scene, aside from that sensational part of it, that's all anyone talks about. When you watch how Paul Verhoeven frames every shot, and you look at the cast in that room, and you're like, whoa. Like the way the guys are moving and reacting.
The 4th of July parade mass shooting in Highland Park, Illinois continues.
The way he moves the camera and pans
getting
it in.
Audio again from something.
Okay, this stupid screen is. Thank you, Ryan fixed it. He muted it.
Okay.
The page auto refreshes because they really desperate. It's Care 11 News in Minnesota, and all news agencies are so hard up for cash. They have to make their websites auto refresh to reload the ads so they can fool Google into paying them.
The advertisers out of more money. Interesting.
Yeah, but no, that scene it's captivating. Watching the interplay between all of the different characters and how the power is shifting back and forth between like first all the men in the room, then to Sharon Stone, then back to Michael Douglas, then back to Sharon Stone, then to like Michael Douglas's boss, then back to him. It's like, whoa, this scene is fucking great. It's go rewatch Basic Instinct sometime because the whole movie.
I remember it being a good movie back in the 80s when I saw it. I remember it being a good movie.
It is. It's
just
really good.
The absolute media storm of her in that. Now do Showgirls.
Showgirls isn't a great movie. No, but it's a great movie.
Yeah.
It's but Basic Instinct really is like, and it's all Verhoeven. Like the way he shoots every scene is so good. And I was watching it and I was just like, there aren't many directors who do this anymore, who know how to really, like, every shot, every framed shot matters so much.
Oh,
and
he
it makes
is
you
an
appreciate
auteur, as I understand the term. And Starship Troopers, what I think is fascinating about that movie is he almost subverted himself. He set out to make a parody. And
he made it too damn good.
And everybody's like, that wouldn't be the worst culture in the world, society to live in. I mean,
it seems like they value order.
Nobody seems to be being sent off to camps or anything. And I don't know. I don't know if that movie actually got the reaction that he wanted.
Yeah.
But
I
love that movie. I could watch it 1,000 times.
Lady Lee Bell says, I don't like anything, any liquor that's brown, but Jameson is okay. Clear is good. I'm in Texas, and you better have LTC, even if you don't have a license to carry. Oh, you better have a license to carry, even if you don't have a license to carry.
Yeah.
Okay. Jessica Reloaded. I blame it all on women. Repeal the 19th. Women shouldn't be involved in politics. Oh man. So I was teaching my Constitution class to the. I was teaching my Constitution class to the homeschool kids in our homeschool co-op today and last week. We had a rare 2 weeks in a row, but last week 2 of my students were gone, and one of them was one of the girls in class, and then so last week, though, I had to explain that there were a bunch of women who did not want the right to vote under the 19th Amendment, and that it was women, and I said sympathetic men, but we all know it was simps. It was women and simps who got women the right to vote.
Is that where the term simp comes from?
It has to be, right? Like that's the logical way for it to come from. But I don't know the etymology of simp that well. But so then today, because a couple of students missed the really important section of amendments that we did last week, and we only have one more class following this one, I had to kind of play catch up. So we burned through it, but I made sure on the 19th to say, oh, by the way, most women, or not most, but a significant amount of women really didn't want the right to vote. And both the girls' eyes just like, giant. They're like, what? And I was like, yeah, they were worried about having to sign up for the Selective Service. They were worried about having to take on the responsibilities that men had to do if they had the right to vote. And they're like, what's the Selective Service? I'm like, oh, it's this great thing that all men have to do when you turn 17 is you have to sign up for the draft in case we go to war and they have to draft people. And I said, you guys don't have to do that yet, but it's coming. It's coming. Equality is coming for you.
It's going to be hard to, and of course, the unfortunate thing is the military doesn't need a lot of women. Physical strength and stamina and all that kind of stuff still matters a great deal. And it always will. An American soldier today carries approximately the same amount of weight as a Roman legionary did. So,
and it's just the plate carrier with plates is heavy as hell.
Yeah.
And you put it on a 200-pound guy, and it's heavy but tolerable. You put it on a 120-pound in shape woman. I mean, that's a significant portion of her body weight.
Well, the arm strength required to cock a 50 caliber machine gun is apparently beyond the ability, of many of the female soldiers.
Probably me too.
Probably. Well, yeah. I mean, it's a.
We're not just hitting ladies here. This is I'll self-deprecate. No, but it's an interesting thing. But it was just fun to see them because no one tells anybody this stuff anymore. And so to relay that no, there were a bunch of women who said we don't actually want that, and they're like, how could anyone not want that? That's what I love about the homeschool classes is we get to explore the topic of why women didn't want a right to vote when the 19th Amendment was being debated. Yeah. Because you don't get that in a public school. You don't get.
Oh God, no.
They just say, and finally women get the right to vote that they'd all wanted forever. And equality was still centuries away.
Well, the thing is women had the right to vote in a lot of states. there were states that let women vote before the 19th Amendment. And I read an article one time. I didn't follow it up to verify it, but it was from a credible source, and said it's very interesting. Actually, you can look at the spending in states who enacted the right of women to vote, before the 19th Amendment. You can look at their spending levels before and after, and you'll never guess what happened. After they gave women the vote, their spending went up dramatically. Government spending in the states. Yeah, I know. I'm shocked too. So there are consequences of those things.
I personally don't like the 19th Amendment is not any like big deal for me. I don't care about it.
It's not something you'd ever be able to get rid of anyway. So
yeah, there's no way.
Yeah,
but I want to point, like, I find there's funny topics around it, but it's I don't actually like care. But it's such an interesting discussion because so many places, if you discuss it, it's like too dangerous to get into facts about it. And I love that it scares people to talk about that. And I think if you polled America and you could somehow make it honest, a bunch of people would say, yeah, don't let me vote either. We'd be surprised at how many people are like, yeah, I don't give a shit. But we shouldn't be. Honest. Well, we shouldn't be surprised because people routinely don't turn up to vote. Like they just don't consistently.
I don't want anybody voting that doesn't care. This get the vote out bullshit. I've never had any empathy with that whatsoever. It's like, if I don't want people that don't care actually exercising the franchise, I'm perfectly content with 30% of the people voting because those are the people that actually care. But my words fall upon deaf ears, sadly.
Yes, as they often do. As they often do. Yes. Randall Gully says, I know I'm late, but license plate RHP997. And if anyone gets that, we are brothers and / sisters. RHP997. I have no idea. Go for Big Guy 911 says, hey, Nick, you and Ty need to watch Neil deGrasse Tyson get absolutely destroyed by Del Bigtree. The look on Tyson's face is priceless.
I'm afraid every time I listen to that guy talk, I'm going to get estrogen poisoning.
Yeah.
He is an absolute jackass. The fact they let him do Cosmos, the new version of Cosmos, he couldn't carry Carl Sagan's jockstrap, metaphorically. Sagan was a lefty, but Sagan was a genuine genius. Tyson is an absolute poser.
Tyson did like one or two things. He's not very bright. Elevated.
Yeah, well, and he's not. Well,
he's kind of dark. I mean, I didn't think we were going to go into that.
Well,
I didn't know we were going to bring race into this time. But I mean, if you want to go
this would be this racially charged. No, that's the thing about so many of these folks is that they're not very smart. It's like getting a doctorate in astronomy must not be that difficult because that guy's a buffoon. Anyway.
Well, I mean, doctorates are typically just products of work,
right? Like that's true too.
If you work, they're not reflective or indicative of intelligence.
Yeah, I've never heard of anybody failing a graduate course.
It's more about, can you stick to doing a bunch of bullshit for long enough to get it? And for a lot of people, it's like, well, I have to go make money. Like I have to live.
That was something they told us when I went to Texas Tech Law School just to observe. They had an open house day when I was deciding where to go to law school. And the professor that gave it the introduction, he said, I want to warn you right now, this is not a graduate liberal arts experience you're about to go into. This is a professional school. Law school was much harder and much different than graduate school. I've done both. Our doctorate degree was harder to get.
Well, maybe yours. Mine wasn't so difficult.
Well, compared to getting one in history,
If they let me have one, it couldn't have been too bad because
that's on them more than
that's their mistake, and I think they regret it every day. I try to make them regret it every day. That's my goal in life.
I think you should. I had a interesting conversation with a new client. I got a liberal arts professor at a university in East Texas. Needed a real estate and thing done, kind of deal. So he found me on the internet, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. Didn't know we were actually doing any kind of that stuff. But we got to talking, and and I could tell that he was politically liberal. What were the odds, right?
Right. Yeah.
But a real nice guy, and he had taught history, and so we're just my day was pretty much done, so we're just shooting the shit. And the Supreme Court came up, and I don't remember exactly how he said it, but he said something to the effect of, "Well, I'm just worried that all these Trumps they're just fascists." And I leaned back and I said, "Well, not all of us are."
How'd that
Actually, we had a very good conversation. He's about to release a book. He sent me a thing on it. I mean, not a super nice guy.
Sure.
What I would characterize as a classic liberal. Okay, one that you could actually have a conversation with and not, and not get into a fist fight.
I don't
they used to be 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Right. I don't mind people who just disagree. Like if we agree on basics. So Destiny is this weird streamer, and he was talking to Fresh and Fit and Sneeko. I know all of these names are very important.
Yeah, I'm very conversant with.
But Destiny, he made an okay point, but I think he's slightly misguided on this. I think this is how it was. And I think we're getting away from it. But what he said was the problem everybody has is everybody is approaching everyone else as if they're intent on destroying people. And he says he believes that the overwhelming majority of people genuinely have the same sort of goal, which is to come at things from sort of the best perspective, even if they're wrong.
Bullshit. That's bullshit.
Listen. He says even if they're wrong, they're doing what they think is the better way. And I think things, but Ty, just listen. Look, listen.
Okay.
No, I think that was true. I think that's what you're talking about with like classic liberals and sort of a bygone era of discussion. And we notice like more and more that that is going away or almost entirely gone now. But I do think that there was at least a time in this country where people disagreed on how to get things, but they had a basic agreement that things would improve if, we had a basic agreement that things would improve if the family unit was preserved. And then some people thought, well, this conservatives, for example, would say, well, preserving the family unit means these things, building strong family values and this and this. And maybe a liberal would think, well, I agree that the family unit should be preserved, but if it can't be, we want the government to step in and assist whatever family unit is left. And it's like, okay, so you're kind of getting to the same concept, but you disagree on how to maintain a strong family unit. Conservatives saying the actual traditional family unit, and liberals saying something like, well, we strengthen the family unit concept through government when it breaks down in practice. But the idea is still a strong family unit. Nowadays, I don't think that's true anymore. I think that there are people who think the family unit is legitimately toxic and actively work against it on the left. Whereas, so they don't have that basic agreement that the family unit strength is actually a strength to the people involved. They go, no, this thing is actually a prison that people are stuck in, an old idea, and we should redefine and dismantle the family unit because it is inherently bad. I think what Destiny was, my whole point in this is I think what Destiny was saying used to be true. And I think we're increasingly see it be not true.
What I would object, I mean, assuming you've paraphrased Destiny correctly, what I object is, number one, there's an implication there that both sides are equally at fault. And that's bullshit. Okay. Let's start with that. Both sides are not equally at fault. Cancel culture was created by the left and is largely implemented by the left. They're the ones wanting to literally, in other countries, they're wanting to literally imprison people for talking. So the minute you say that we're doing the same thing, I'm done with you because you're a moron. The other problem is saying that someone believes that they are doing right doesn't get us very far. As somebody in one of the chats here said, Hitler thought he was doing right.
Right.
That doesn't get anybody off the hook. What's going on today is and in the United States, at least in my opinion, is the greatest amount of self-delusion that has ever happened in our country's history. We hit a tipping point with affluence as a nation, to where people can actually act like children. Half the adults in the country can act like infants and somehow not starve to death.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing.
That's
how that happened is crazy. And what I love is the way our news media portrays the American experience. I found this out when my parents went to visit a charity that they donate to in Kenya. I think you know which one I'm talking about, but they're in Kenya and they're being driven around by a guy who makes like $20 a week or a month or something like that, like $20 US, and that's a good job. And they're passing abject poverty, and the guy apologizes to my parents for the poor in America and how bad they have it. And they're like, oh, wait, I'm sorry. Wait, what? Like, what do you, and he's like, yeah, we hear on the news how the poor in America are suffering, and they're driving by these villages,
and you're like,
that don't have floors in the houses or tents or whatever. Yeah. And the kids are wearing like ripped up bed sheets or ripped up towels as clothing because that's all there is. And there's no running water, and like people have to walk a mile or 2 miles to a water source to get this water and then bring it back and boil it. And like the whole day for one person, the family will revolve around the water. And they're talking about the poor, and they're like, the poor in our country have TVs and cars, man. But the way it's portrayed and talked about in this nation of abject affluence, we talk about the poor, but it's such a relative terminology. Whereas like the poor in America live better than something like 90% of the entire earth.
Oh, well, yeah. Our poor live better than 99% of humanity throughout history.
It's great.
And that's not an argument necessarily to say we shouldn't have a social safety net, but the reality is, the media is not a media. They're a propaganda corps. They have been the propaganda corps for the Democratic Party, really for the last 40 plus years. It's now just obvious. I mean, one of the many things Trump did is the media just stopped even pretending.
Yeah.
When's the last time you actually heard a media person seriously insist that they are unbiased?
I hope none of them, because it would be the biggest lie that they would ever say.
But that would make a reporter indignant if you were to suggest they were biased, even though they clearly were.
Right.
But they're not even trying. But no, what we've got going on now is just a mass delusion. And I guess as long as we can afford it, it'll continue.
We'll see.
Myself, I stopped worrying about the rest of the world a good while ago, back, I think, when Obama got reelected. I said, you know what? I'm just not going to worry about people that aren't smart enough to vote, in the best interest of themselves and the country. I'm going to take care of me and mine.
Yeah.
And that's what I focused on.
That's what everybody should because I get that question a lot. Like, they're like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And it's like, well,
take care of you and yours.
Do that. And then as you take care of you and yours, influence the people in your circle. Like at first that's you, your family. Eventually that circle, it may grow into your community depending on what you do. And I have this belief, and I think it stems from a Jesus parable, but that if you're a good steward of your personal circle, you will get a community circle. And if you're a good steward of that, your circle of influence will just continue to grow. And the size of the circle that you get isn't like reflective of how good of a steward you are. I'm not saying it's a merit-based system, but I do think that if you are a good steward, you have the ability to grow that circle. And then at some point, you're certain, like my circle of influence is way bigger than I ever thought it would be. Mm-hmm. And I think there have been plenty of times where I've been very careless with that. And I sometimes get a reckoning, or I get convicted by a reflection or a sermon or a conversation. And I go, you know what? Like, I do have this ability to talk to more people than I ever kind of dreamed. Maybe I need to be, I need to be more cognizant of that. And, but it all starts from really taking care of you and yours. Because if you're not a good steward with what you have close to you, you should not be able to touch anything around you at all.
Well, yeah. What would that do to our political class?
Well, yeah, and that's what blows my mind. That's what blows my mind is we see these news people with and celebrities, and their families are just consistently broken. Their interpersonal
despite having wealth that the rest that normal people could never envision. I mean, talk about every external advantage there is, and yet they manage to fuck that up
constantly. And it's
predictably.
And it's like, why do we let these people have influence? It's why I don't listen to celebrities for any advice. It's like, your life is usually garbage. So I really don't want your help. Thank you, or your opinion. And the same goes with politicians, like the level of frequency that these people have some brokenness that brought them to their that's why they drove themselves to their politics. It's like, I have this thing that is my agenda, and it's usually something broken that they really want to push. That's why I don't trust them generally, is because, like, no, you got here through the wrong ambition. You didn't get here because you were like good with what's around you, and then that just grew organically into this thing. You got here because you were driven to power to achieve a thing to fix your brokenness. I don't want that person in office ever. Those people are damn near, they're the most dangerous people.
Oh yeah, of course.
But K to the Swiss explains that SIMP is an acronym. It equals sucker, idolizing, mediocre pussy. So that's what SIMP stands for, apparently.
Well, glad we got that cleared up.
Thank you. Gopher Big Guy 911. Also, I wanted to thank you for becoming a monthly supporter on Rumble. Rumble rolled out this monthly support feature. I don't know anything about it. I don't know what it comes with or whatever, but I believe it's $5 a month. I want to be clear with people, that is not joining locals or anything like that. And currently, I'm not aware of any particular benefit to it. Believe me, I appreciate the hell out of people joining that, but I don't want that wasn't something that I knew was rolling out, have any option on, and I don't want people like misinterpreting that as you're going to get some sort of benefit from it. To my knowledge right now, there is no particular benefit. I'm still trying to get some answers on like what it is or if they have plans for it, but I do thank you. And same with Ding Chavez, who became a monthly supporter as well. And he dropped this Rumble rant. He says, when did we consider commies people? Well, a
very good question.
We is the strong term. Some people consider them people.
What's this we shit?
Crazy Man Jack says, it's always bizarre to me when a conservative says the left started cancel culture. It's like they memory hold Nancy Reagan, Christian moms, and the FCC teaming up.
Yeah, except none of those things actually got anybody fired, and none of those things had any real actual effect. See, that's the problem.
Yeah, there's a conflation of cancel culture today, which is this mob mentality of targeting individuals and ruining their life.
Yeah. And if you can't figure out the difference between not wanting children to be exposed to things that you genuinely think are bad, and that a lot of people at the time agreed with, and the crap that's going on now, you need a legal guardian. Go now. Go find a lawyer and have a guardianship.
Well, I think Nancy Reagan needed a legal guardian too.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, the point is, what you're saying is exactly right. They weren't running around trying to get people fired for the simple act of disagreement or failing to agree enthusiastically enough. And if you're too stupid to see the difference, really, go get somebody to take care of you, because you're not competent.
The Jackals of Terra Argentum says, joined up and joined as a monthly supporter. Thank you. Appreciate it. Again, that was the worst ad I've ever could have done. It's like, I don't know what this does.
I have no idea what this is.
You don't get any benefit from it. And then joined up. Awesome. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Nick, you're a genius, boy. You're a genius. You're an advertising genius.
Oh my gosh. Let's briefly talk a little bit about the Minnesota thing, because I think guns are a general hot topic right now because of this amazing ruling we have from Brewing, right? This is New York Pistol and Rifle Association versus Brewing. That was the opinion penned by Clarence Thomas. Oh, we could talk about he's in heat. Not like he's ready to breed that he's in heat, but he's in some political heat right now because he accepted trips from a company. Did you hear about that?
Oh,
Or an
no. Did he
organization?
now? Well,
He did.
listen, I'd be all for getting rid of every politician and every government figure that took trips from a company.
Me too. Me
Mhm.
too. The
Mhm.
funny thing is, there's like a call. They're like, we need a better judicial code of ethics for the Supreme Court. Who's going to make it? Because the Supreme Court
Is the
will
sup-
sit.
That's why the word supreme.
They will sit and serve during good behavior. Here you go. If you don't like it, impeach them, and watch what happens when you impeach a Supreme Court member. Watch what happens to you when you try that. I dare the Democrats to impeach Clarence Thomas.
Oh,
There is
please.
no judicial code or of anything, by the way, for them accepting some trip or whatever from some group.
It's it's made up bullshit. I mean,
Put it in the
Scalia went
Constitution.
hunting
Amend
with-
the Constitution. Try it. Go for it. Like
knock
that's
stuff
the
out.
only way you get it through.
Well, if nothing else, if they would try, that would slap John Roberts about his idiotic head. This whole idea, that buffoon continues to insist that politics don't matter on the court, and it's like, how did you even get into law school, much less get out of law school?
I love this picture
That's
so
glorious.
much. So much.
I saw Clarence Thomas speak. He came to Tyler, and the man has an almost supernatural level of calm.
He's amazing. Like,
I
I love listening to him talk.
Dry, very smooth, dry sense of humor too.
Yeah.
And it was like, he's one I would love to go out drinking with him.
Yeah. The crazy thing is, there's so many people where you find out, like him and Ginny, I think is his wife named Ginny Thomas.
Mhm. Ginny, yeah.
Like if you meet them, you're basically like invited into the family. Like you don't have to take the invitation, but they'll like invite people to dinner all the time. They host dinners at their house, and it's just like very nice, welcoming, like that classic hospitality exists.
Mhm.
And it pours out of him in every interview where he's so welcoming and he's so conversational and so calm. And it's an amazing like way to like experience a Supreme Court justice that is not so rigid and far away from people. And I just love his demeanor. Scalia had a little bit of it too. When you watch his interviews with people, because the way Scalia writes, the way he writes his opinions, you would expect him to be like condescending and haughty. But when he's talking to Piers Morgan, who comes, and that's one of my favorite interviews he ever did, because Piers Morgan comes at him and he acts like an absolute asshole for like the whole, and he's like, well, what about this? What about this? And Scalia's like, no, what are you talking about? No, that's absurd. Look, here's how the founders saw things. Here's how we saw it unfold throughout history. And here's the reality we're at today. And that's why we should be able to execute 12-year-olds.
See that. I haven't I haven't seen that interview.
Oh, it's really, really
I'll
good.
have to hunt it down because
that's not actually where he talks about executing 12-year-olds. That was a joke. But there is he's invited to some discussion, and they ask him about cruel and unusual punishment. Is the death penalty cruel and unusual? And he's like, no, that's crazy. He's like, at the time that amendment was written, as far as my research has shown, we were executing children as young as 12 years old. So maybe you could make an argument that executing someone under 12 at the time of the adoption of this amendment might have been cruel and unusual punishment. Yeah. But the founders clearly had no problem with public painful executions.
Well, so many felonies used to be punishable by death. I mean, not,
all of them. All of them at the founding. I mean, there were only like 9, but all of them were death penalties.
Yeah, I mean, so cruel and unusual punishment would have been probably something like drawing and quartering someone.
Yeah, ripping their fingers off or whatever.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
The shit the Crown did I mean,
yes.
when you want to know what like they're trying to target in any particular amendment, you just go the shit the Crown did. So what do they mean by the Second Amendment? Do they mean for hunting? No, the shit the Crown did where they disarmed the populace. That
we weren't worried about deer imposing a tyranny.
Right. It's like when the Constitution says no capitation tax will be allowed. What do they mean? The shit the Crown did, where they just decided that a particular the United States territories would be taxed separately from everything else, and those taxes were apportioned amongst them, but not amongst anyone else. They had a problem with that. So that's what they meant. You just go. The shit the Crown did is what you couldn't do.
What I'm enjoying more than anything else, and since Heller is this furious realization on the left that the Second Amendment is actually in the Constitution and is actually a right.
Oh God,
it blows my mind that how we could ever have lost sight of that.
Heller was good. Brewing is
better. Yeah.
Because everything is
say goodbye to your scary looking gun bans. Ultimately,
I mean, they're eventually going to get up to the Supreme Court. It's going to take years, but so far, like Brewing has been shattering gun regulations over and over, and the judges can't get away from the plain language of what Clarence Thomas wrote, and it's the operative language. The test is there a historical tradition of this type of firearm regulation? And if there isn't, it's out. And you go, wait,
scary looking guns have not been,
none of it.
We used to let machine guns be sold as late as the 1930s, 40s.
I mean, no, it was later than that. That was the National Firearms Act originally just targeted the short-barreled rifles and sawed-off shotguns, which I'm going to have Fudbusters on to talk about that, because the reality is they wanted to ban rifles with the National Firearms Act. And that's why pistol braces are are considered considered regulable under the National Firearms Act, is because what they were scared of was not handguns, but they were scared of people making rifles out of handguns, probably because of the increased accuracy and stability. But then the whole rifle thing went out the window, and the only remaining vestige at the time was the short-barreled rifle and the sawed-off shotgun, because you could put a sawed-off shotgun in a coat and walk up and just blast one of your gang rivals, right? This all goes, and this is great. I got to tell all my students how gun regulation all goes back to the government's mistake with prohibition.
Yeah. Prohibition is a classic example of unintended consequences.
Or shit, they wanted to ban handguns. I'm saying this wrong. They wanted to ban handguns.
Yeah.
They wanted to ban handguns, but that's what it got. But still, it's like the National Firearms Act is a hack job, because of what they wanted to do isn't what they ended up doing. But there's these weird pieces of it that are left over.
The government screwed something up. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Who could have imagined?
I'm gonna do clearly I'm not the super expert on this. I love guns, but I'm not like a gun autism or whatever, and I'm not a gun law autism. But I know two great gun law autisms, Fudbusters and Benjamin Blatt. And I'm going to be putting together a show with them. I would love to have them, Larry Correa, and what's his name is Labonte, the guy from All That Remains, the lead singer of All That Remains, on there, Phil Labonte. I want to have all four of them on. They're all pro-gun guys, and then we'd have two lawyers, and we can talk about just gun regulation history in the country with some of the most educated people on the subject, who are fighting at the highest level. Fudbusters was just up in Congress testifying before them, Ty. Did you happen? I don't think you saw this, but one of the Democrats got really mad and they pulled up a tweet from Matt, who's Fudbusters. And they're like, "Is this your tweet?" He says. And the tweet just says, "Seriously, fuck cops." It was awesome. And he's like, "Yep, that's mine." And he's like, "Oh, don't you think this is inflammatory?" And he's like, "I had just watched a video of cops murdering a civilian." And what you could hear, you could see him want to say, seriously, fuck cops. But it was like this Democrat, and then he stops asking him the questions and he goes to the cuck ATF lawyer next to him. And he's like, what do you think of this tweet? And I think it's highly inflammatory. And in a time where violence is being called against law enforcement agents, it's just not the right tone. It's like, oh,
we get to be inflammatory.
Yes.
Inflammatory speech is actually protected.
Yeah, it is. It is. But so that's a show I want to put together because and I want to go through the history of the NFA, US v. Miller, and all of the attempted gun regulation, because right now it's the hottest topic with Bruin just overturning attempted gun restriction after attempted gun restriction because it cannot get around Clarence Thomas's language, and it's fucking perfect.
Well, Clarence knows how to write.
He does. He does.
It's unfortunate that Scalia died, but one of the things that has emerged that has scared the hell out of the left and surprised a lot of people, didn't surprise me, but is that everybody always said, well, Thomas just echoes Scalia. He's just Scalia's, lackey. No. They actually had fundamental judicial perspective disagreements that are really important. They were friends and they often allied, but you can often read that Thomas would write a concurring opinion to Scalia. Yeah, Thomas concurred on a lot of those things, but he turned out, he didn't say turned out. It's now obvious to the other side that, oh crap, he really is a world-class intellect.
It's so funny how engaged the left was on Clarence Thomas with the soft bigotry of low expectations.
Yep.
They made him into a dumb black man. And oh God, I love how often the liberal media specifically does this to black conservatives or black right wing. They're like, oh, they must just be a dumb black, not like a good black. They're a dumb black. And that's why they don't understand what they're supporting. And they're like,
Nick, nobody knows what's better for you than white liberals, especially white female liberals.
And they would do this specifically with Thomas. They're like, and yet again, Clarence Thomas just sat there silent. He wouldn't even ask a question. And it's like, he didn't need to ask a question. And he's way smarter than you, but you just think he's a dumb black, which is so fucking racist and hilarious that I can't take it. Like, you should be at all the fun parties.
He addressed that in the time when I saw him. And he said, we study, we work on these opinions for weeks, with a whole team of people. What's a lawyer going to say in 15 minutes that's really going to matter? That's going to change anybody's mind. He all but said it was a waste of time, and it is a waste of time.
The funny and the really funny part of it that I just love this guy for is when he did ask questions and they're like, oh shit, Thomas asked a question, and then because once Scalia died, he took over the role. He let Scalia ask the questions, but then he started asking the questions, and they're like, "Oh my God! Like, these questions are devastating." Over and over and over is great. Hold on, we got
my favorite meme is the iceberg. The Titanic heading for there only with Thomas's face.
I just soon. I just love this guy. He's great. Tankrat says, before the Firearms Act, you could own a tank, a cannon, and a warship. I think you can still own a cannon because those are not actually firearms under the statute. Don't quote me on that. Like, it's not legal advice, but I'm pretty sure it is legal advice that you can just buy a cannon because it's a non-rifle.
Buy a gunpowder cannon. I mean, school bands have cannons. They don't. And I mean, as far as I know, there's no law against making small steel balls to put in the cannon.
I only make big balls. Dictator York says Billy Bob Thornton looks different.
I'll take it.
I love it. You know what else looks different today, Ty? What looks different today is this. This is my shaker bottle because I didn't wash my other shaker bottle before the stream, and I was already running late.
Shaker bottle do? What does a shaker?
Well, shaker bottles for mixing things.
Oh, okay.
And what we're mixing today is Field of Greens, the sponsor of the show. This is Field of Greens. Ty, you've probably never seen this, but Field of Greens is a way to get fruits and vegetables into your diet without being gay. Did you know that?
No.
That you can do that. All it is it's a scoop of this powder, which is ground up fruits and vegetables, and you put it in water and mix it up. And then you drink that, and it's a serving of fruit and a serving of vegetables. And it's nothing else. There's nothing else in there. A mix of fruits and vegetables, and all of the health benefits that come with that are included. The recommendation is that you have roughly 2 servings of fruits, 2 servings of vegetables a day. So you have 2 drinks of Field of Greens, and then all you have to eat is steak. You never have to eat asparagus or beets.
Wow.
Or tomatoes or apples or any other bullshit. You just go to fieldofgreens.com. They'll send you a different shaker bottle than this, but you mix it with like 12 ounces of water.
Flavored?
Yes, this is wild berry flavor. It tastes good.
Okay.
It doesn't taste like ass, right?
Well,
because sometimes when you get a green drink, you're like, oh, it tastes like my freshly mowed lawn. Yeah,
I was sort of making that connection, but it's like a normal beverage, but it gives you all the nutritional benefits.
Yeah,
cool.
they even have a health guarantee where like if you drink this stuff every day for like a year and you go to your doctor and your health hasn't gotten better, like they'll give you your money back and shit. It's crazy how much they stand by.
This is the 21st century I was looking for.
It's
food in a powder.
But it's really good. Guys, go to fieldofgreens.com and use promo code NOSE to get yourself a discount. Look, they're high quality products. They're not the cheapest things in the world, but you get a lot of drinks out of each canister. Make sure you use that promo code NOSE to save yourself as much money as possible. But again, I drink them every day. Often you'll see me drink one on stream. I love these guys. I really like the drink. It's not a meme. I told them, when they said, will you advertise our product? I said, send me some, because if it tastes like trash, I will not do it. I will not tell people to buy something that tastes
your audience would never let you off the hook.
You can also mix it with vodka if you want.
I was going to get around to asking that question, actually.
I did it on stream. Water, vodka, and Field of Greens. You can do it. It sounds like it'd be awful. It's actually not bad.
No, weird. Vodka mixes with any number of. I mean, orange juice and vodka is one of my favorite drinks.
Right, a good old screwdriver.
Yeah.
Well, get your drink on with your alcoholism with fieldofgreens.com promo code NOSE. With that, guys, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna read the YouTube super chats, and then we're gonna pop this show over to Rumble, as we often do,
where we can really unwind.
We can get into this Bud Light topic and talk about kind of the trans agenda a little bit more openly over there, because YouTube often has people who, again, we're not going to say anything that goes against any actual term of service. However, YouTube has this vague term of service, and they hire people that don't speak English to enforce it, specifically so they can fuck you whenever they want. So we're going to avoid that. We're going to go to Rumble, and we're going to just have a good time obeying YouTube's terms of service 100%, but not worrying about what someone might misunderstand.
I just had an epiphany, sort of. When you're hiring those non-English speaking people, you're typically hiring them from countries that are a lot more autocratic than ours, right?
Yeah,
and with no tradition of free speech or individual liberty to speak of, that kind of thing.
None.
I wonder how much of this censorship is driven by that.
Well, remembering that my first strike on YouTube was from me agreeing with Joe Biden as he was talking about bringing children back into school in the middle of COVID. And he said, we need to get these kids back into school because we found out through the research that, it's not really affecting children as much as it's affecting older populations. And so we think it's safe to bring them back. And I said, yes, we've known that for a while. It's great that they're implementing this policy. I agree with the president here, but the CDC had not updated their website yet, Ty. So despite me agreeing with the president on something, agreeing with the authority, agreeing with the regime, and then they're like, no, he violated the rule because he disagreed with the CDC. I'm like, I didn't even disagree. He's directing the CDC to do this. Like, he's their
with
boss.
The boss of the CDC. Yeah.
But it's like, geez, it's crazy. But you're right. It's that autocratic, it's no tradition of free speech or open debate. And then the other thing is, many of them just don't understand American idioms, sarcasm, and the way and nature by which we talk. So they go, oh, this must be a threat of violence. Like, no, that was actually just a joke. Like that was not, no one thought that was a violent threat. No one thought that was anything except you, because you don't get that was sarcasm. So, but let's read these YouTube chats real quick, and then we can move over to that and have a nice chat there. Jesse Bear 2115 says, you should do an interview with Mark Smith at Four Boxes Diner. He's a Second Amendment constitutional attorney. Would love to chat with him. I've never talked to him. Didn't know he existed. Would be glad to talk to him. Absolutely. Trinity of the Phoenix says, have you thought about bringing on armed scholars? Again, I don't watch a ton of YouTube, so I often don't. And when I do, it's mostly like 40K shit or music videos or something like that. So I don't know a lot of these people. I have no idea who Armed Scholars is. I'm not opposed as a principal matter to talking to anybody, so long as they're decent conversationalists on a camera with a microphone that isn't terrible, because that's the hardest part, is talking with someone who gets onto a show and they're like, yeah, okay. And it's like, okay, I don't want to drag you through the show. I don't want to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But no. So a lot of YouTubers
picking a lock.
Right. A lot of YouTubers are, especially if they're used to live streaming and doing panel shows and stuff like that, I would love to have them on. I just usually have never heard of them or have no idea how to contact them. So I would be happy to talk to that person too. The Field says, Verhoeven famously didn't even bother to read the book and somehow still failed to put any satirized fascism in his movie, probably because he doesn't know what fascism is. Verhoeven's he's just good, man.
Yeah.
I think he knows.
Like I said, they're showgirls.
Well, Hartman says, a little behind, but I wanted to mention you can buy a good 3D printer for a couple $100, learn to make your own guns, screw the feds. Nice. Cult of Personality, think anything will happen with Clarence Thomas? No. What again, they'd have to impeach him. Like, that's only
can you impeach
yes,
the Supreme Court justice? Okay.
It's been done. Any government official can be impeached, and the rules are the same as impeaching any other official. The only person who gets the special rule is the president, because his impeachment has to be presided over by the Chief Justice, which is interesting because that would have posed a really interesting legal question had Trump been successfully impeached, because Roberts refused to do it. Now, they would have made the argument that he was still successfully impeached because he wasn't president at the time of the impeachment, but there would be a really good argument that actually, that doesn't matter. He was still impeached as president. His impeachment was filed before he left office. But anyway, but everybody else, yes, and it doesn't have to go before the whole Senate. That's the other thing. It can be actually voted on in committee as opposed to voted on by the full Senate, which is, again, a requirement specifically for the president. Speaking of presidents, president of YouTube rappers that I love. What up, Flawed TV? How you doing, brother? Flawed, if you're around tomorrow, I might send you an invite for tomorrow night's show if you want to come hang out again. I love talking to you, but good to see you in chat. Thank you, man. But yeah, with Clarence Thomas, there is no discipline board for the Supreme Court. The discipline board is impeachment. That's it. That's your only option. During good behavior, they will serve. And the only way to prove not good behavior is to impeach them. And impeaching Clarence Thomas would be a disaster.
Well, yeah.
Oh God, it would lose them the House, the Senate, and the presidency for the next election, almost guaranteed. I hope they do it.
That would. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hold on, let me see. Mario Carter 13. Now that's what I call brand synergy. You have to consume Bud Light to find the Bud Light spokesman attractive. Cynic in Chief, after watching David Schneider make a complete mess of Monty's case, I have more sympathy for Ty's handling of Vic's case. Oh, well, there you go. Lord Torchwick says, just found out banned from old job because I can't work final shift of 2 weeks and boss threatened me. Gotta love it. Okay. Your boss threatened you? Sounds like there could be a claim there. Could be interesting. Xander's rants, quote, 2 men hospitalized after Monopoly game devolves into samurai sword fight from Not the Bee. So it's real.
Is it in Florida? You know,
I have no idea. It's almost got to be. Damikazi, did you hear about the Seekins SCOTUS case? Calling into question the constitutionality of felons having ammunition, which is underpinned by another Commerce Clause abuse, could open tons of doors. And again, the based Oklahoma Fifth Circuit judge he kicked open the door using Bruin on all of the restrictions put on firearm ownership, saying that first by targeting the marijuana card carriers. But the way he worded that, it made basically the case that all of those restrictions, like not current serving time felons, but people who were previously felons. Why did they lose their gun rights? Why do we presume that they don't have access to the Second Amendment automatically, which is a case that Amy Coney Barrett had made as well? Like, these are non-violent felons have their gun rights taken away for life. How does that make sense? You know, these are big questions. And
yeah.
the ATF has gone way too far. Next, Marked Ashamed says political criminals, this is a quote, political criminals are more dangerous than violent criminals, quoting a New York City politician 2023. Amazing. Dr. Spoon, is Jack and Bud Light saying drink enough and you won't notice? Yes. Yes, you won't notice as it slides into you. Sentient Guillotine, Texas GOP is trying to treat drawings as real life CP. Yeah, there's a big debate over that. Look, as far as I understand, lolly and drawings are legally protected. But if you like that, please get help immediately.
Yeah.
And frequently, as much help as you could possibly get. Help yourself away from children. Toluvian says you should interview Tom DeVore, who is battling the state of Illinois on their recent gun ban passed by RIP and replace amendment in House and Senate, and then signed into law by the governor on the same day. Yeah, I think I have a news story on that because there's like 3 or 4 different organizations that are all fighting that Illinois gun stuff on different grounds, and they all got their cases combined. It's really good. I don't know if that's the same one, but again, I don't know how to contact
the
any of
left
these
loses
people.
its mind every time they get their butts kicked on these cases.
Yeah, it's great. Master Lions gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much. John Doe says, showgirls, everybody got AIDS and stuff. Jacob McQuaid, simp comes from Simpleton. Lady Lee Bell says, sorry, you'd better have an LTC if you plan on pulling a weapon. If you plan on pulling a weapon, you'd better be prepared to use it. Also, you'd better have a damn good lawyer. Yeah, well, she said darn good lawyer. Well, that's always true. That's always true. But the general... Yeah, the idea is I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Have they started the take your shot case? Is that?
Yeah, it's over. It was a 4-day trial. The dad was found guilty and sentenced to 14 years. The son was found not guilty. And it's probably because
the son's the one that fired, wasn't it?
No, both of them fired.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The reason
the son was acquitted because his dad was being attacked, I guess. Some kind of
and the dad is the one who said, take your swing. So I'm guessing the jury decided that those were provoking words, which nullified his right to self-defense. I disagree with that legal outcome, but I don't know. And I don't know that that's the reasoning the jury gave, but the dad gave like the best speech. It was such a dad thing right after he's convicted. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the court apparently was in uproar. Outside the court, there's uproar because the community wanted them acquitted.
Yeah,
this guy was a menace, and everybody in the community.
Oh, there's no question. When you watch the video, the guy is losing his mind. All because he's being told something he doesn't want to hear.
But he says something like, "Now you all calm down. My son's okay. I'm okay, and I'm gonna be okay. Everything will be all right. Let's go home." And it was like, oh my gosh, what a dad! Like, what a dad line that guy had. He seemed like just such a stand-up good dude. Like, honestly, he did. I mean, as goofy as that thing was, like the aura that he gives off is just like, I'm just a guy who doesn't take any shit, but he didn't come across as like violent or anything like that. So, let's see. Alfred B228 says there's a line in the book explaining that even if you were blind, deaf, and dumb, they had to find something tough and unpleasant for you to do. They did,
but it was military. But it was military-oriented service. I saw somebody in the chat saying I was dead wrong. No, I'm not. Heinlein had to explain those things after the book was written, and in any event, it doesn't really matter. It took more than just mere government service. You had to put your life on the line, or at least be exposed to the threat of that happening. Well, okay, how do you do that if you're driving a truck for the government,
right?
Or whatever,
Viatoro 7 says, if I remember the history of simp, it used to be an acronym for the phrase someone infatuated with mediocre poo-tang. Damn YouTube. USSJ for Broly gifted a membership. Thank you. Siberius says, super chat disappears. Disabled veterans, if they make too much money, their stipends will disappear. My carrier is 40 pounds, just plates. Sentient Guillotine, Texas GOP is trying to ban manga for being CP. Look, again, that is a question that society needs to wrestle with. Like, how tolerant are we of drawing a 6-year-old having sex? Like, I know it's a drawing and I know it's a fictional character. I get it. How tolerant are we now? Does
it matter, Nick, if the evidence indicates that it either makes them more likely or less likely to assault a child? Does that enter into it?
Maybe. I don't know. We have to figure that stuff out. It's a really, but again, if that's you, I'm not saying you should go to prison, but I am saying if that's what you enjoy looking at, get help.
Get help.
You need it desperately. Get help.
Well, you're going to be around. You're inevitably going to be around very vulnerable children, and be exposed to a temptation that you may not be able to resist. So get help.
But obviously, we should clarify that the majority of manga does not have that in it. So if they're just trying to ban all manga, that would be a huge problem. The majority of manga has nothing to do with drawn naked children.
Well, from what I've seen in my very extraordinarily limited exposure to anime, is what they do is they put very sexually mature female characters in like schoolgirl dresses and shit like that. But it's not.
You haven't seen the dark stuff.
No, don't want to.
Yeah.
Please don't make me.
There's a very big difference on that stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. Uriah of the House Right says, speaking of the famous German painter, 2 more weeks will be his birthday. Oh God. Randall Gully, JFC thought Ty being an actual Texan, no offense Ricada, would get that Robert Earl Keen reference.
Robert Earl Keen. Shit.
Oh, that's the license plate RHP 997, which is apparently, that was Denzel Washington's license plate in Training Day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Dana Church says, sorry, the poor in America don't own cars. You're describing the average broke but not broken person. I mean,
the number one health problem facing our poor is obesity. That has never happened in the history of the human race. Our poor are affluent by any historical or, for that matter, worldwide standard. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't, again, have a safety net. I'm not arguing, but the idea that our poor are starving to death and their lives are being ruined because they're poor, that's not true.
And I also want to point out that there is an extreme level of poverty. Obviously, there are people who are homeless in the United States, who have literally nothing to their name. Someone said the poor in the U.S. are broken, are laying next to a needle in an alley. You're
mentally
you're
ill
talking
homeless
about,
people are.
well, and you're talking about the bottom, like 10th to 100th% of the poor, but the poor actually goes up much higher than that. What we call poor in the United States, remember, it's on a relative expression. It's 80% below it's 80% of median income is considered poor.
Yeah, there is no objective definition of poor, right?
Right.
As our affluence goes up, our definition of poverty is going to go up as well. And homelessness, you got to remember, is almost exclusively a substance abuse and mental illness problem. It's not a lack of resources, and it's not a lack of ability to find a place to live or to eat and all that. When we made it unconstitutional to institutionalize people without a whole lot of effort, we dumped a bunch of insane people out on the streets, and that's what we're doing today.
Yeah, but there's a distinct difference between American poverty and sub-Saharan African poverty. And it's not even close. Like, it's you can always find an edge case in America, and then when you compare that to other places, like the edge cases in America are still at like median levels of poverty or median levels of income for other countries. It's crazy.
Guys, I don't think Nick and I, either one, are saying or implying that the poor ought to be thankful, or they're being sissies for complaining about being poor. Well, that's not what we're saying. Nick is pointing out that that someone in Kenya was actually feeling sorry for American poor because of the crappy media portrayals.
Right.
And it's absurd my guess is, outside of the aristocracy in Kenya, our poor do live better than the average Kenyan. But we're not judging poor people or saying, they're spoiled.
And there's nothing that says that that it's easy to be poor in America. It certainly isn't. Our cost of living and living to this in Kenya, there aren't standards that bring like in the US, you can't buy the housing because it's so expensive. In third world countries, you can buy the housing. You just wouldn't want to live there. Typically, it'd be comparable to living on the street in many occasions, or sometimes worse, depending on, like, does your village have landmines around it from the last Civil War and the constant raping? Like, there are levels here, but it's not in any way to like belittle American poor. It is just to go like when a guy who makes $20 like it was either a week or a month, and is a well-paid individual, is apologizing to American poor. It's like, well, there's a perspective issue here. Okay. The Gun Club says the NFA wanted to ban handguns, hence the requirement for rifle shotguns to have minimum barrel lengths. Gun Club says, want proof that Second Amendment wasn't about hunting. Remember that the people who wrote it had just won a war against the biggest empire of the time. Again, the shit the Crown did.
Right.
Yashkin.
Not worried about a deer uprising or a deer tyranny.
Ty, did you really believe that men in the past didn't have their boys go and pick up their weapons back in the day? No age restriction on Second Amendment.
Now, what I'm saying is I'm questioning, all of the gun rights being given to 7-year-olds.
Right. And that's,
I think there's room for some moderation on that. Okay.
I think if they want to do that, amend it.
Yeah.
I'm an extremist.
Well, that would probably get it accomplished.
Joshua Vidrian says,
I want to add one thing, because you can't count on today's children being raised the way I was among adults that were well armed, hunters and stuff. When I was 7 years old, if I looked at a gun too long, some adult would apply some discipline. I mean, if you grew up with guns, you learned how to treat them with respect. And, your average hunting family 8-year-old could carry, it isn't particularly dangerous with a gun, irresponsible. But you can't count on that. I've known way too many idiot parents. So just saying. Sure.
Joshua Vidrine, you can ban bullets, but you can't ban my balls. Brandon Herrera, butchered.
And you can't take the sky from me either. Classical reference.
Mark Freeman, I really appreciate the Rumble stream being a few seconds behind the YouTube stream. Is that on purpose? It helps the transition to Rumble. No, it's not on purpose. I don't know what's up with that. Murph Dog Mandate says, hey, you dirty Schuster, drink with me, a fellow Esquire. Your friendly one-legged previous U.S. Navy medic with U.S. Marine Corps whenever I lost my leg, but it didn't stop me graduating with my doctorate. Okay, buddy.
One of my best friends ever was a Navy corpsman who served in Vietnam. Hats off. He is sadly departed.
That is to what was that guy's name? Murph Dog Mandates. I'll have a drink with you, man. Absolutely.
I'll have a metaphorical drink.
Yes. So you're just in like personal crisis since you can't trust Jack Daniels now. You're like, I don't know what to do.
I know. I'm as I said, something
you could have a manlier drink than Jack Daniels and have a White Claw.
White Claw. Is that a brand?
It's a flavored seltzer.
No,
I know, but it's now a manlier drink than Jack Daniels.
Oh, okay.
White Claw is that's the white girl drink, right? Like
okay.
If you go to like presumably, I haven't been to a college party in 20 years and White Claw didn't exist. Back then it was like Zimas and Smirnoff Ices and stuff. But if you were to go to one today, what you'd find is White Claws in the hands of all the white girls. So, but that is now more manly than Jack Daniels.
Well, anybody from Jack Daniels watching the show, you did this to yourself. You morons.
And Murph Dog Mandates, cheers to you, buddy. Here's that drink we're sharing. Let's see. Drop Barracuda says, I think it may be worse. I think they understand the sarcasm and irony, but also understand the law and the court of public opinion are deliberate. He says, by the way, Nick DiPaolo said you're funny. That's big. Well, I am humbled by that. Thank you. Ben Frail says Wizards of the Coast have banned race mixing in D&D.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Yep.
That's on the list.
Ty Dollar Sign says alcohol pandering to these people because it's their best tool to trick people into having sex with them. Renegade Shuriken, thoughts on D&D removing half races? We're going to get there in just a minute. Acrylicophobia. Did you catch the Tennessee state reps being expelled today? Rep Sabi Kumar's comments for expulsion were more American than a lot of the people currently in government. I heard about it. I want to go look at it.
Baby. An eye for an eye.
I want to go look at it. Funny Ginger says, what the fuck happened to Jack Danny? Would you mean Jack Denny? Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
Sorry. Jack Daniels, they
let
teamed
stupid
up with
people make decisions.
They teamed up with RuPaul's Drag Race to bring, their advertising into the current year. Ty Dollar Sign, if they made a law for dangerous drawing, they'd make a law that bans pencils. Stop asking the state to handle things. Yeah, I'm not particularly for it.
I'm not either.
But I am for getting help if you're into looking at drawings of children.
It's very uncomfortable, especially if you have children. To hear, yeah. I think that's what you and I are exuding is just the discomfort. I'm not calling for that to be treated as child pornography.
Lady Lee Bell, your super chat is actually the next one on the list. How I do super chats is $20 plus super chats get addressed right away, and then the rest of them get addressed later. And yours is right here. Actually, it was the next one, and I just saw your chat. Robert Earl Keene is a Texas musician who is roommates with Lyle Lovett at Texas A&M. Ty, can't believe you don't know who he is. Still love you.
Remember, I'm an immigrant from Louisiana.
So is not so is Lyle Lovett. Lyle Lovett's from Texas. That's right.
Yeah.
My mom went to high school with Lyle Lovett.
I think I knew that.
Yeah.
She mentioned that one time. Yeah.
So
Mr.
here we go.
Julia Roberts at one point.
Drop Barracuda. How do you ruin that? Drop Barracuda says, in America, we outsource our flies. Xander's Rant says, show Ty Pippa Pipkin's billboard and see what he thinks. No. Sean Anderson says, drink Belgian. Chimay, Roquefort, St. Bernardus, Westmail. You can never go wrong with Trappist monks. Asia Frazier says, did Ty throw away his shot? No, he's not throwing away.
No, I'm not. I'm not drinking.
That's a Hamilton reference.
Oh. Well, I've never seen Hamilton, so
I like it
because I'm straight.
Yeah, but we know I'm not. But So Xander's Rant says Elon Musk brought and drank White Claw when the Babylon Bee interviewed him. Gross. Sentinel Rex, what if this trans in ads is a 4D chess move to get people to give up their vices? Well, there's always more.
It's a very effective plan, it would appear.
There you go. Okay. Wait, Lady Lee Bell also went to the same high school as Lyle Levitt, Klein High School. Well, lady, you may know my mom, depending on the year that you went, or the years that you went to high school. I don't know how old you are, but yeah, she went to Klein, knew Lyle Levitt, and I think she got to meet him later. Like, I think she and my dad went to a concert of his and got to do like the, go meet and greet thing and got to talk to him. So that's pretty cool. Drop Barracuda says, if you're going to go Belgian, get Meridsus 10. I don't know what that is. I don't drink Belgian liquor, but I'm not opposed. I just don't know where I'd even buy it. Okay. We're going to Rumble. Oh my gosh, that took a while. We're going to Rumble. Very important, guys, that you go ahead and click on the link in the YouTube description, or in the alternative, if you don't want to click on a link, Rumble implemented this new feature. Rumble.com/RecatoLaw/live will bring you always to my current live stream, the next scheduled live stream if I've created the link, or the most recent live stream, in that order. So go to rumble.com/RecatoLaw/live and book it so you can bookmark it so you can always check me out when I'm live without having to worry about having that link. So
somebody had a great line about Bud Light. I'll talk about it when we get to Rumble.
All right, we got a 20-second little stinger for the transition, which is way faster than transitioning your gender. 20 seconds, and we'll see you on Rumble. If you don't want to go over there and you're just watching on YouTube, have a good night. Thanks for watching with us. Peace.
For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, ladies and gentlemen,